a new Gold Coast studio, which is always fun and games with the old setup. But I can't wait for this guest because this could be heavy. We don't even know where this is going to go. But let's introduce him, Blake Manwaring. Welcome to the Dos and D Show.
G'day, boys. Thank you for having me.
Mate, thanks for coming on. It's we just had a really good chat before, and mate, you've got a lot going on. There's a lot happening right now, and we're really grateful for your time, mate. So I guess firstly, mate, you've got something big happening pretty soon. Let's jump straight into that. So it's a big, huge run, 100 Ks.
Yeah.
Tell us the details.
Yeah, so next Saturday. So I'm running from Burleigh Hill. So Gold Coasters will know Burleigh Hill, but it's 100 Ks on the dot to the Gabba in Brisbane, so
Wow.
the AFL cricket ground there. Running for Stop the Coward Punch campaign, so that's Danny Green's fundraiser, and it's obviously to raise aid and awareness and some education for young people surrounding this this organisation and actually to stop some violence. It's my little bit, if I'm going to run 100K, which I've obviously never done before, but if I can do that and that hopefully motivates someone that you can do certain things and push your boundaries and have a bit of fun with it along the way, then everything's going to be all right. So yeah,
We'll get into the running a little bit later on and how you go personally with the running. But tell us about the story behind it. So why is this important to you, and why are you taking part?
Yeah, so it'd be 10 or 11 years ago now that I was actually a victim of assault. So it was Anzac Day in 2012, and I was just waiting for a lift home with a couple of my mates. And back then, like it was just all beers, like it was all fine. Like we were just waiting for a lift home, and I was actually sitting down, and I got booted in the head. So by someone who I didn't know. It was a random attack. And by like my recollection and memory of it is it's pretty clouded because obviously I got heavily concussed. But once I came to, I staggered across the main street and looked into a shop window, and I thought I had a missing tooth, but it was actually my jaw was in half. So there was a gap there, and it looked like a tooth was missing. And then a couple of my mates were like, "Oh, mate, we need to take you to hospital." I'm like, "Oh, guys, it's fine. I've just lost a tooth. Like, I'll just go to the dentist on Monday. Like, it's all good." But I was obviously well and truly out of it. Spoke to the security guards and everything. They didn't want to have a bar of it, so we caught the courtesy bus to the hospital. And once we got to the hospital, I got straight up an injection of morphine. They looked at me straight away. They knew I wasn't all right, and it turns out then, along with the split of my jaw, up the top here in my, I think it's the connector or something they call it in the bottom jaw. It was the image they said was if you get your glass bottle and you throw it at the ground, it was all shattered all up here. So, and being in a rural country town of Taree, there wasn't enough resources for surgery and things like that. So I had to go down to Newcastle. So it was about a 2-hour trip. But yeah, the doctors just said you're going to have to call your mum, or we're going to helicopter you down to John Hunter for surgery. And that was hard, calling mum at 4 a.m. It's like, "Hey mum, everything's okay, but I'm going to need you to take me to hospital. There's been an accident." And then post that, I had surgery 48 hours later, and then the rest is history. It was a pretty long bounce back from that.
So were you with a couple of mates? Were they sitting next to you in that whole scenario? This bloke just out of nowhere. So were you sitting on a park bench essentially?
So so picture you've got a shop window behind you. So we're just sort of sitting on that little step, and there's a shop window behind you. So we're just all sitting there. There was a mate here and another mate here. And we were looking over in the distance, and we could hear some idiot yelling at a girl, and he was literally like pushing and shoving. It looked like just a couple having a fight. And we yelled out things like, "Oh, leave her alone. She doesn't want to go home with you," stuff like that. But it was literally, I think from even what the witnesses said about half an hour later, that he came up and said who was saying something, and then kicked me in the head. And so it was like the result of it all was it was obviously unprovoked, because that's just silly. But the mates and everybody else was involved.
So does it then turn into a big tussle?
No, there was nothing. There was no fight or anything at all. There was no confrontation. It was all straight up in one motion. And one of the statements was it was like he was kicking off for a game of footy.
Yeah.
It was And I don't want to play the victim card or anything at all. It's more so talking about, hey, that this stuff can happen. And as a result, I was the one that copped it. I just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time for someone that was triggered the wrong way.
So this guy, do you know any? Have you spoken to him ever since? Do you know his background? Do you know his name? Do you know if he's got some kind of history in either physical violence or anything like that? Do you know anything about him or no?
No, and I'm at peace with that.
But he just walked free that night, and that was it.
No, so there was things that happened in regards to, there was court cases and things that happened, and that my family actually kept private away from me for a little bit because they didn't want me to know about it. So mum and dad attended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they went through with it, your family?
Yeah, I went to one or two, and then the fella he originally he got a couple of months of a sentence, but it got let he got let out on bail. And then I think he got about 10 months good behaviour or something. So but look, I'm at peace with not knowing where he is now. It's obviously affected his family, things like that as well. I just hope that in some realm and wherever he is, that he's educating people that he's done something wrong to stop people from doing that as well. Because I'm hoping that he's gone through a lesson.
Well, and we don't want to be talking about him because he's the one who did the wrong thing, but he's lucky that you only ended up with, the issues, with jaw structure and having to go through surgery. But he's so lucky that you didn't die.
Yeah, and that's the thing too.
And you're lucky that you didn't die. I should say that you're lucky as well.
Definitely, man.
But I mean, from his sake, mate, I can't imagine. Imagine doing that. All of a sudden, you wake up the next day, you realise what you've done, and that bloke's in a coma, and he's, surviving. Trying to, survive for his life.
Which has happened. I am one of the lucky ones. There's been a lot of young people who have lost their lives, and it's all as a result of just something so silly, just a silly decision. Yeah.
So when this happens to you, how are you feeling? Were you pissed off? Were you angry? Initially, did you want to get revenge? And then the next time you go out with your mates and get on the piss, did you feel comfortable even doing it, going out again? What are you like in social situations where people are drinking and acting?
Yeah, it was a long time before I got confidence again. You look at me. I'm not physically intimidating. It's I was a very confident kid though, and I'd like to think in my group of friends, I'm that kind of guy that that we all want to hang around with, and everybody came to my place and things like that. But it took a long time before I wanted to go out again. This happened down home in Taree, and shortly, a couple of months after, once I sort of got movement back in my jaw, I moved to Hamilton Island, and I ended up staying there for 5-6 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was like, not much is going to happen down home. There's this that's happened, a bit of violence, but there was no job opportunity down there, and you can see how this can affect a couple of those people who stay there for a bit longer.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time, and then once I did start going out, there was a safety net of Hamilton Island being a small community, and it's an island, of course, so you do feel safer. But say we were to go to the mainland or anything and have fun, I'm not an anxious person, but I felt like people were looking at me. I felt like I was going to get targeted.
Yeah.
Even at the pub on Hamilton Island, I felt like that I was a target, and I probably wasn't. Wasn't at all. But it took me a good 5 to 6 years to get that confidence back.
So essentially, there's a bit of PTSD there. So almost do you get flashbacks at all about it now? Did you when you moved to Hamilton Island, and did it really affect your day-to-day mental health?
Looking back, it did. At the time, I didn't know. Yeah. At the time, I thought I was just going through a young 20s stage. I thought I was just going up and down with emotions, but there were times where I reflected on it, and I think I just switched it off. But it's more so post Hamilton Island, moving to the Goldie, getting a bit older and stuff like that I've reflected on. I was like, wow, holy shit! It did affect me a lot, and I struggled a lot with memory in my early 20s to about 28, 29. And now heaps of stuff's just coming back to me. It's like I'm getting clearer again.
Wow.
I think I've let it all go. And it took it took a long time to realize. Like I was doing stupid shit too. Like I was not I was not necessarily behaving wrong, but just making stories up or like telling the wrong stories just to get attention and things. And it's just not true to the core of who I am. And I was like, oh, maybe it's all because I'm tired or something. But looking back, mate, like I was really not well. Like 24, 25, I was pretty unhealthy mentally, and I think it all caught up to me then.
What would you say, because now you're a father?
Yeah.
How many years? 11 years ago, did you say it
Yeah.
happened? Yeah. So, like, what would you say if you're with is it a son or daughter, by the way? Sorry.
Yeah, Cooper, my son.
Cooper.
Yeah.
So say you're with Cooper.
Yeah.
And you actually came face to face with the guy that kicked you that night. What would you say to him?
Mate, I far out. I've never been asked that before. It's it'd be pretty confronting, but at the same time, not that I have any forgiveness. I would have forgiveness if he's helping others, because he also has a really important message to share. He could have ended up down a different direction as a result of that night, and he's in a position now where you see these alcohol-fueled fellas, and this guy, he was a lot bigger than me too. Like if it was a confrontation, he would have beat the shit out of me, put it that way.
Yeah.
But he's in a position of power where he can educate these younger fellas as well. It's like, hey, I made a really bad call. And this is the result. This is what's happened to me. This is what happened. The result of how my family felt afterwards, how my partner felt. And if I was to come across him with Cooper, I'd be like, mate, like this is how I am now. Everything's okay. I need you to tell people that everything's going to be all right as well. Yeah, and you need to educate some people. Yeah.
Is it not until now as what, like, so we're going 11 years ago.
Yeah.
It's now that you're doing the run. Obviously, there's what Danny Green is doing with Stop the Coward Punch, and that movement's only probably relatively new in the last few years. But is it only since having a child that you've now kind of gone, holy shit, like imagine that happening to my kid.
Yeah.
Like my parents must have been absolutely mortified. You can understand why they wanted to press charges. Like it's something that now you only realise is this is something that we need to change.
100%. And I can't even remember why I thought of it again. There was nothing that triggered it. I was just looking at Cooper one night and I just started thinking about it. I was like, wow, and I got really upset within myself. I was like, Mum and Dad had to experience this. My sisters had to experience this. I can't imagine this happening to Cooper. And I was like, I'm their Cooper. So it's like, and it was obvious, like my heart was just breaking because I cannot imagine him getting hurt like that. And that's just my family. That's just the core of my family. Since I've started this, I've had a couple of friends who I haven't spoken to for about 5 or 6 years say, like, I remember this night so clearly. I think about it often. I had one mate who I was really close with growing up, and things don't change when you catch up with them every 5 years or so.
Yeah.
But, he messaged me. He's like, "Oh, I don't know if you know, but I got hurt that night too." And I didn't even think of that.
Of course.
He got injured in another incident that night, but he was with me in hospital, and I was like, "Mate, like, I'm sorry that I didn't even think of that." So a lot of people were affected that night, and it's not as if there was fights or anything happening. It was just a silly thing that happened. Yeah.
So as we bring these attacks like into the light of society, like is this becoming more prevalent now? In 11 years later, like you mentioned off air, like now there's a heavy drug culture, especially in Australia, like that might not have been even there 10 or 11 years ago. So is this becoming, more consistent, prevalent within young people?
Definitely. And I even read a stat yesterday about how Australia's number one with cocaine. And these kids that are taking it, it's probably not even cocaine, to be honest. It's like who knows what the hell these guys are putting into these drugs. And you see it all the time. Like I work in the hotel industry, and the kids that are coming in to check in, they come in with a box of cruisers, but that's it. Like, what else are they taking?
Yeah.
And we see the stuff that they leave behind sometimes, and it's honestly outrageous. Back 10 or 11 years ago when I was going out, it wasn't even a thing. It was, you have some beers with mates at home and you head to the pub and you go out if you're lucky. Like and so, like, the violence that's happening now, kids aren't thinking straight at all. And And if you're an aggressive natured person and you know that within you, you need to know your triggers. Don't take that shit.
Yeah.
Just it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Just don't take it. And because it's not worth you punching a bloke and then you ended up in prison for the next 15 years. And you know, you've just killed someone. You've just ruined not just his life, but the people surrounding him. You've ruined your life, the people surrounding you. If you within you feel like you're an aggressive person or you get triggered easily, man up and don't take that shit.
Yeah.
Fucking just have a few beers. Watch the footy.
I think unfortunately though, is the whole idea of trying to fit in and the peer pressure aspect. I think that's the first big mistake that every young bloke, let's say blokes, but obviously girls do it as well. But it's as soon as you're wanting to try and fit in and you don't want to miss out. You want to be a part of this group or this circle. And if I don't do it, well, I am.
Yeah.
But I think what a lot of young people don't realize is when you say no, that's actually you. I don't want to say that you're better than them, but all of a sudden you're separating yourself from them. You are a leader as such. I guess, is that something that you're trying to spread, is like try and be a leader as such? And to Cooper, is that something that's important to you?
Definitely. And I'm also, I'd like to think I'm known amongst my friends like that. Like I've said no plenty of times.
Yeah.
It's okay to say no, guys.
100%.
Like and you know, you're not going to miss out on the best night of your life at Sin City in Cavill Avenue on the Gold Coast.
Sin City, geez, that takes me back to the schoolies.
Yeah. Like you don't need to go.
Yeah.
Have a night off.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be all right.
You're not missing out.
You're not missing out.
Yeah.
Like, the best nights of your life are about to come. And you know, it's I think what stands out a lot of people from the rest, if you lead and just say no, and you know, one or two friends are going to follow. Definitely are. The right ones are going to follow.
That's right.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So something just come out. I don't know if I've shared this on our show, but it was under 16. So we grew up in Victoria playing AFL, and one day there was a massive fight. It was a pre-season game. We're under 16, so we're 15, 16 years old. And I remember like there was a big fighting culture. Like everyone's going through that age of frustration. You're going through school and puberty and all this sort of stuff. And each week there'd be fights.
Yeah.
Just push and shove, nothing major. But one day it broke out. Someone got swung into a fence and it was on. Like I'm saying, every player on the field was involved. And there were people flying over the fence and punches and like blood. Like not push and shove, like proper fighting. Game got called off. And our coach that day, I remember like even my dad talks about this day, like how powerful it was what he did. So he brought us all in, he calmed everybody down. And he basically, firstly, he empathised with us. He said, look, firstly, I understand what it's like to be a 16-year-old guy. I understand what you're going through. I understand half of you hate school, feel pressured. Half of you are dealing with girls for the first time.
Yeah.
You've got all these issues that are going on. But he said, in 2 years' time, you're going to be 18 years old and you're going to be going out. And he said, these things happen in nightclubs too. Like something innocuous can happen and suddenly it's a fight and chairs are flying and punches are thrown. But he said, you land a punch on somebody, it might not even be a good punch, but you hit somebody in the nose and they fall back and they hit their head on the edge of the bar and that could be it for them. That could be lights out, game over, they're dead. He said, you have to live with that for the rest of your life. That's on you. Like you must deal with ruining somebody's, like cutting their life short at that moment, but also their family, their friends, everything that comes with it. And it just made everybody reassess kind of the importance, of mateship. But
That's awesome.
And it was really, really powerful. But have you heard anybody's story of somebody that actually may have killed somebody? And what have you ever heard?
No.
Yeah.
And that would be pretty confronting. But hopefully there's some traction with what I'm trying to do, because I would not say I would love to. That's not necessarily like the best context. But like I want to meet people. I want to talk to both sides.
Yeah, that's what I really admire about you already. Like I really like that.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I because at the same time, yes, you've made a really, 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 really bad decision. It's really bad, but you're alive here to talk about your decision, because you know there might be someone on the weekend this weekend who's fueled by something too many, but you can be that alpha influence. You know, like I can be an alpha influence on a certain type of young fella, but I don't know if I can be that alpha influence on that big butch footy guy. You know, like that's purely physical. But you have these guys who are like that. Have a chat to them, and if I'm open to talking to anybody who has been within this space, because we can at least help one or two people.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
I can really empathise with the youth like that are going through that, because I remember being that young guy too. Like, I remember not always, but you would go out and you'd have a few beers and like you would almost try and you would just almost like, what do they call them? They call it like liquid courage.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you have a beer and you all of a sudden grow bigger muscles.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you all of a sudden feel like, oh, I could take on anyone. Like, and it could just be a little bump and you turn and you kind of like, I remember doing that. So I can empathise with blokes. Unfortunately, it's on another level now with the drugs and so forth. But I guess, are your mates, do you find that some of your mates, and you talked about them being traumatised still to a certain extent, have they seen any other instances when it comes to, I guess, the coward punch, or do they know anyone else who's been affected?
Yeah, I'm sure they do, because down home, especially in a rural country town, it's all the time. There's violence all the time. I remember in school, like there was fights all the time. It was a very rugby league orientated area down there too. So within the country rugby league community, like growing up, there was a lot of fights. Particularly not even with footy. It was all on
In the crowd,
weekends.
or
Yeah, in the crowd. Like even in my soccer grades growing up, we had a lot of dust ups in the crowd. It was result then onto the field. It's just these rural places, but talking about the rural places back 10 years ago, like it's probably still the same, but it's everywhere now. I think, unfortunately don't know his name, but the year that I got hit was when the young fella at Schoolies died, and that's what sort of started the whole movement. Because I got hit at the start of the year, and then the young fella died in November in Schoolies. So, and that's how this is all sort of started. But I'm sure my mates have a lot of stories to tell. Like we saw violence, not like what you see in the movies and stuff, but fights all the time.
Yeah.
It was all the time going out. Yeah, and especially. I guess like your introverted sort of style of people, or if you're into art, if you're into soccer or anything growing up, like you sort of stand out a little bit differently from that culture down in those rugby league orientated towns. So you were a target. And that's not taken away from these rugby league boys. Like I had a lot of great mates within that community, but unfortunately it was just monkey see, monkey do. There was a lot of fights.
Well, we said earlier about empathising, and I really do empathise because, like you said, I remember I was an aggro 16-year-old too. Like I loved fights, not for any other reason, and it felt good to it just let out steam on the weekend. Like I wasn't hitting the gym yet or anything like that, and playing footy, and you get into a little bust up. I wasn't throwing punches, but just I don't know. So I empathise with these kids too, and I want to ask you, because a large portion of our audience, especially in the Victoria sector, they are big into AFL. They're playing, they're 15, 16, 17, that age group that are going through it now, and they're going to come to the age of going out.
Yep.
What about diffusing situations when things arise? So I'd like you to talk on if it's a close mate of yours or even within yourself, but what if you see something happening? Is it dangerous to go and get involved and try and stop a fight of two guys that are about to come to blows, or is it better to go in and try and stop it? Like, where do you sit on that?
It's a really tricky one, because you gotta weigh up. I'm all about diffusing the situation and reading the room, particularly like say us three are going out, and all of a sudden one of us notice one of us are starting to get a bit triggered and going off. You need to tell your mate to go home.
Yeah.
If he's gonna arc up at you, to say, mate, I've already booked you your Uber. I'm gonna wait with you. It's as simple as that. I'm gonna wait with you until your Uber picks you up, and I'm gonna watch you get in the car. And be man enough to say that to your mates, because tomorrow they're going to thank you. They're going to hate you at the moment, but who cares? It's only an hour of your life that they're going to hate you. They're going to thank you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it spills out onto the street, and he's just king hit someone and then killed them. It's so these young kids who are about to go out and stick to playing footy, stick to doing sport, because I think sport is an amazing outlet for your energy and channeled aggression and whatever. Don't take it out on the other players. Just take it out on your physical ability and get it out there, because I think sport is the best avenue to release that. Because you often find a lot of young blokes in particular will stop playing footy once they start going out.
Yeah, definitely.
So once you hit 18, don't stop playing footy.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't stop playing footy. And if you're in a trade or whatever, you get.
If your body can allow you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, mine didn't. So yeah.
Could have been something one day.
Yeah, exactly. I told everyone I could have played AFL if it wasn't for my Osgood Schlatters.
That's knees for people playing along at home.
But just stick within the realm of sport. Just stay with sport.
Yeah.
Because okay, you can't play it, but you can still have you can have a muck around at training or whatever.
Or in Doss's case, he could wash the uniforms for the players.
Yeah, I was a kit man.
Yeah, cut the oranges.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Be the
Just
water
be involved.
boy. Be involved. Yeah, because then you're still around your mates.
Yeah.
And if you got a Monday to Friday job, you get your weekends off. Still be within sport.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I like that.
And then if you're going out with your mates, just make sure if one of them starts carrying on like a dickhead, you're gonna stop them.
Yeah.
Be man enough to stop them.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm confident enough to talk to one of my mates if they're carrying on, and I know that I'm confident enough to stop them. Just do it.
Yeah. With the actual punch itself, right, or in your case, kick, and it's a coward move, it's from behind, you have no idea it's about to happen. Is the biggest worry or the most dangerous part of it, is it the potential of not only getting them in the right spot, but I think what people don't think about is what Dee mentioned, which is if your head hits the ground, it hits the wrong spot. Do you reckon that gets educated enough more so than the actual punch itself? Like, what do you think does the most damage? I guess it depends on the punch or the kick or...
It depends, man. Like, in my case, like I was sitting down, I'd cop the full brunt, face on. If he had got me from behind, would I still be here? I don't know.
It was face on.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was from...
literally on the footy and he's kicked me here.
Oh, God, yeah.
But had it been from behind, I don't know if it would have changed anything. I think it's a matter of educating. I don't know necessarily if getting in schools is the right thing, because going back when I was in school, I didn't listen to a thing that people would come out and do these talks and you're falling asleep. When you're in high school, your attention, you get nothing. I think it's more the case of these 18 to 21-year-old fellas, like our minds are all mush. We're thinking about girls. We're thinking about going out all the time. I think we need to try and tap an avenue where we put it back onto the young girls as well. If one of the girls notice a situation and see their boyfriend acting like a dickhead, or there's potential that this guy and girl, they're about to go home together and he's carrying on like an idiot, you need to step in. I know it's unfortunate, not unfortunate, but there's potential risks of getting involved. But bring a group with you. Go get security. Go get the manager of the place that you're at. But if you're a young woman as well, and don't get me wrong, young women have been a victim of this as well.
Of course.
But I think, me personally, if I was carrying on like an idiot and my partner pulled me up on it, I'm stopping. And I don't know if that's now that I'm a bit older, I'm saying that, but when you're younger and you're fueled by wanting to get with girls and things like that, I'm pretty sure if a young pretty girl's telling you to stop, you're going to stop. Yeah. I think it's and I think it comes to that will also then reflect on amongst your group and amongst your mates. Like it's
and also these days, mate, with all the martial arts and UFC and all, mate, you don't know what people can do to you. Like
that's right.
Someone could be able to wrap you up into a pretzel, like just totally destroy you. You just don't. It's not just punching anymore. It's like kicks. It's everything.
And that little fella who you think that you're gonna belt, mate, he's just left, right, good night. You're gone.
Wow.
So I think what needs to happen is these 18-year-olds who are about to go into life, potentially in their last year of school, need to get educated a bit more. And it all stems with their... I think we unfortunately have to do self-defense. I think self-defense needs to be in school. I think it's just an unfortunate reality that we have to do it, because you never know when you're going to need it. Everybody loves traveling. So you're going to go overseas where everybody's cultures are different. And you get ruffled up by someone. I think self-defense should be a priority for all people, men and women. Yeah.
I know it's so tough because it's all hypotheticals, and I don't want to speak on behalf of. I mean, it'd be great to have speak with a woman here too to hear from her perspective of, because, like you said, all the things before about potentially could be she might feel this high compared to two big blokes that are about to come to blows. But is there a way, like even just precautionary steps prior to this, even getting to a physical escalation, Is there any warning signs on, say, your mates that, okay, once they have 6 beers, all right, that's when they grow the muscles, or that's like, can you somehow, even before it gets to that point of, is there a way we can like try and prevent it even getting to that stage?
Definitely. I think it's like especially in those younger 20s, like you're getting blackout drunk, like you just and it's funny and it's fun. I think all it takes is one bloke within your group of mates to say, "Oh, we need to cut him off." It's just like it's all funny and fun, and it's all that you laugh about it the next day. That he vomited in the shower. Oh, it was friggin' hilarious. But I'll just grow up a little bit. Put your mate to bed. I know it's really hard for these younger people to even listen to this and take it all in because they're probably not going to.
Of course, yeah.
But it's the little steps that, say you're at a pub and your mate's getting sloppy, he's fallen asleep, he's just lost a bet on a horse and he starts saying every swear word under the sun. So we really should send Billy home. Like let's just call him a cab, or you get the bar staff to call him a cab. It's you gotta look for these signs, especially if you have a mate who's got those little aggressive intuitions about them as well. And it's just about educating your group of mates. All it takes is for one of you to think about it, and then you talk to your next mate about it.
That's right.
But you got to act on it. Yeah, you got to act on it.
With your mum and dad, I'd love to know if you've had a conversation, like now years on, now that you want to spread this message and push it hard, because I think back to my parents, and when I would go out, literally my parents, my dad in particular, he would always say, like, mate, I don't care what time it is. Just message me and I'll pick you up. Like, I don't care if it's freaking 5 a.m., 12 in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. Just come, I'll come and get you, because I know now he was so worried about, not me, but all the other dickheads out there.
Yeah.
Because, there's people on the street that want to get into a Barney and they want to dust up. Have you had a conversation with your mum and dad, and have you heard how much it did affect them?
Yeah. It was mainly when I started doing all this campaigning, and there was the chat about potentially not doing it as well, just because we're a bit worried about the negative aspect of the potential people who think that it's not real, or who were there that night that were affected from the other guy's point of view as well. Because I don't want to put any shit on that side. So that's what we sort of talked about, and dad and mum, like, thinking about it as well, they always just say that sort of stuff too, and they've been super supportive of me doing this. I don't think we've gone too in depth. Like, I have checked on them to say, hey, do you guys want me to do this? Are you worried about you guys receiving anything at all? And they've been super supportive. I haven't gone too in depth with them. I don't know if, I think that will be the final thing. Like, I'll get probably pretty upset if I have a chat with them, because Dad's pretty tough. So I've never seen that emotional side to Dad, but I reckon that I'd crumble pretty hard. I think probably post this run, we'll have a really good chat.
Yeah.
Like, I've penciled it in. Like, I really want to. So yeah, because even thinking about it now and feeling it now, like I know that they've obviously been impacted. They're just strong because I'm their son, like, and they're just supporting me. So we've never really gone too deep with it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But we will post run.
Great.
Yeah.
One of the sort of final questions I have on this topic before we move more into the run.
Yeah.
Advice for parents, advice you'll be giving to Cooper when he's 18. Like,
Yeah.
what would you say to the young parents, or not necessarily young parents, but parents that are going to have to, there's going to come a time where their kids, whether they're male or female, are going out and getting into these crowds. What's your advice?
I guess it's you obviously start young. It's almost like it falls into the category of bullying and harassment and all that sort of stuff that I'm obviously going to teach when he's a little kid. But it's I would love these kids to be leading by example. And mate, if you see that there's an awful situation, you either chat to that person or just remove yourself entirely. Remove yourself from that situation, because you don't need to get hurt. If it's confrontational between two people, like what we were talking about before, do we diffuse it or not? You just obviously got to assess it, and if it looks like it's going to be a risk to you, you need to remove yourself entirely, because it's honestly not worth more people getting hurt.
No.
Yeah, and I think for
Especially innocent people.
exactly, yeah. So if you notice that things are getting out of hand, because all of a sudden then it's like what you see in footy, like how they all jump in, but like when they're doing it at the clubs, you know, all of a sudden 5 blokes have just been hurt. Like we could have contained it to just the 2 boys who were having a blue. And like what happened to me on the night when I got hit, my mate who was sitting next to me, he immediately then jumped on me and laid on me. So
Really?
just in case he was going to do more.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's assess the situation, obviously act on your natural instinct, but make sure that your safety is also a priority as well. Yeah.
Now coming to the run, 100 clicks. Tell us a bit more details around the dates, when it's happening, and how can everyone else get involved?
Also, how people can get involved post-run if they're listening to this post the run.
Yeah, awesome. So it's Saturday, July 8th, so next Saturday. Reason being July 8th is that Stop the Coward Punch campaign have secured the Brisbane Lions versus West Coast game as a fundraising game.
Great.
We were waiting for the draw to get announced, and here I am hoping it's a 7:30 kickoff, but it's the worst possible time at 1:15 or whatever it is.
On a Sunday?
On a Saturday.
Yeah.
So, and they,
Have to get a wiggle on.
they want me to finish
Really?
at the stadium, so in the stadium on game day. And
Wow, mate.
And the Lions, like, you have a 12 p.m. to 12:50 p.m. finish. And I was like, oh, give me a 15-minute window after 100K. So I'm going to start the night before. And I've got one of my best mates, he's riding his pushy next to me. So I'm going to start at 5 p.m. the night before. I'm allowing myself heaps of time for anything to go wrong overnight, but it's pretty much just an overnight shift, hanging out with my mate on a pushy, and we'll end up at the Gabba. So, and the whole reason behind 100K, I've never done it, but it's more so the mental and physical challenge, and the message that I want to get out to people is, okay, Blake 11 years ago was extremely fragile. He got really hurt, could have died. That's the reality. I could have died that night. Over the course of the last 10 years, I've worked really hard on myself, mentally and physically, to get to where I'm at. You know, I've got a loving partner, baby, house, a really good career, and then I have the ability now to train for 100K. I was like, that's pretty bloody good. And all these young fellas who are struggling and have no goals, no drive or anything, all you need to do is put on your shoes and start training, and you can do a marathon, you can go for 100K. It's just those little small wins that will get you there. So I want to not necessarily make this about me. I want to be the image that when I was 20 to 25, I had no real role models to sort of look up to that had suffered something like this before. Just get out there, chuck your shoes on. That's the hardest part, and then you're set.
Yeah.
So.
Tell you what, Brisbane West Coast, it's ironic to Stop the Coward Punch. I mean, with the way West Coast are going and Brisbane are going at the moment, it could be an absolute bloodbath, that game. But how far have you run before? Yeah. Are you a runner in general? And talk to us a little bit about the training and prep that you've been doing.
So obviously amateur athlete. Like I enjoy running. I've done 2 or 3 marathons now.
That's
okay.
Pretty. Yeah. I'm not as worried for you now.
My training's been really good. Body feels really good too. I did a 40K last Saturday, so that was my last sort of big run. And I was like, if I can hit 40 to 42, I'm sweet for the 8th. But I did Melbourne Marathon last year, and that was one of my favourite runs. It was awesome.
Cool.
Not being from down there too, like you run through the whole city, and it was really cool. But my prep leading into this is just obviously a lot of Ks. Diet, I was a vegetarian for about 2 months, just to really detox, get rid of a bit of the baby fat, and my clarity mentally was a lot clearer too when I was vegetarian. So mixing it up a bit now with some meat and stuff. But the veggie diet really got me through.
Oh, there you go.
We might have to have a look at that.
Yeah,
well, I might have to.
So that helped me a lot, and just smashing through the kilometres. And now, probably the last month, knowing that I have to run overnight, I've done a couple of night runs and stuff too. So it's fucking cold.
What kind of pace are we going to be looking at? Do you think?
Looking probably for the marathon to the 50K, probably 6-minute Ks.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping. If I can hit 50K running, then I'm sweet to walk the rest. Like,
of course, yeah.
But it'll be run walk probably that last 50. But
it's tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But if I can hit 50, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So how do people actually donate
Yeah,
to the cause?
so all on my Instagram, I've got the link and stuff sorted there. So it's and I'm also selling beanies and socks through. I started a virtual run club called Mates Run, and this was during the height of COVID when you couldn't actually run or train with people. So and you were limited to doing like a half an hour workout or something externally or whatever it was.
5Ks out of your radius.
Something
that
like
was
that.
us in Melbourne.
Yeah, something like that. And I was like, far out. All I want to do is just hang out with someone. So I just started Mates Run as a virtual run club. So I'd schedule it, say, Saturday, blah, 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 I'm doing a run. And then say you're down in Melbourne, do a run on this day, just then chuck it up on your story and tag Mates Run. So that way we're all running together.
Yeah, cool.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it through Mates Run as well. I'm also doing it as a Mates Run. So like on that Saturday, while I'm suffering out in the 2 degrees in the early hours of the morning, do a Mates Run. So go for a run, do a 5K, chuck it up on your story. And
Come on, Dossie.
So, yeah, the pressure's on.
Yeah.
Pressure's on.
Okay.
But it's all the link and stuff's all via my Instagram. So it's hopefully get a couple more clicks up. And
What's your Instagram?
So, so it's the Mano. So the _ Mano. And yeah, just chuck us a message on there and stuff as well. If you wanted to get a beanie or a pair of socks, and all profits are going towards it. I'm not making any money from this.
Good on you, mate. Yeah.
And just finally, are you obviously in line with Danny Green? Have you spoken to him, or have you had any contact?
Not yet.
Not yet.
He's going to be at the game. So
Right. Oh, nice.
the campaigner let me know that like I get to hang out with him after, and I'll be stuffed.
Have a beer with him.
Yeah.
I'll have half a beer with him.
Yeah.
and I'll be ready for bed. But yeah, he's going to be there. He's
nice.
I think he's a West Coast fan. So
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah.
Of course.
He's from WA.
Yeah. And I actually think he's a Parramatta fan as well. So
Jeez,
He likes
you're
those
going to get
colours.
along really well.
We'll have something to talk about. So
Yeah.
it's good.
Good, mate.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Blake, we just want to, mate, firstly, commend you because what
Thanks,
you're doing
mate.
is bloody amazing.
Thank you.
I really resonate with your story, not because it's happened to me, but because I've also been a young bloke and I've loved a beer. And, like I said, I empathise with all those young guys, but you're someone that's had this happen to them. Sorry that it happened to you, but what you're doing now after the aftermath of it is just amazing, and you should be really proud of yourself.
Thanks, mate.
So, mate, we just want to thank you for coming on.
Thanks, boys. Yeah, really appreciate it. And I think, obviously, knowing your audience and stuff too, hopefully we can help one or two young kids and,
Definitely.
guys or girls. But, mainly it obviously all ties into men's mental health as well. So,
Well, it's Men's Mental Health Month, I think.
well, there we go.
I think.
Yeah.
So,
And it all ties into that. And
Yeah.
I think particularly over the last 10 years, we've seen a massive rise with the unfortunate stats. So if I can do my bit in helping one young person feel a bit better, then we're good to go.
That's it, mate. It only takes one person
Yep.
to listen and have that message, in their brain, and when that time comes, they know what to do, and something stops. So, thank you so much, Blake. Really appreciate it. Been awesome chatting with you, and can't wait to see. Good luck.
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Can't wait
Cheers.
to watch on from the distance.
yeah. We might do our mates run together.
Yeah, we'll do a mates
There
run.
we
We'll
go.
do a mates run.
We'll do that.
Unreal.
Cheers,
All right,
Blake.
mate. Thanks, Blake.
Cheers, boys.